Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Namaskara, hello and welcome to the 131st session by Ataha Madhvacharya for the Youth live session on YouTube and other social media channels. We are really delighted to have you in this session. Today, we are here to discuss the topic, what actions do we need to take to be happy? Insights from Karma Yoga of Bhagavad Gita. Here are some of the questions that we struggle or battle every day, and I'm sure we all have these questions in our mind in our daily lives. So before that, let me set the context for the day. So here are some of the questions that we always ask ourselves. What does the word karma truly mean? How does one know if he is doing the right karma? Even after doing the right karma, and why do one suffer? Is it following a passion is also part of karma? And what is the ideal daily calendar one needs to follow as a student, professional, and a person with household responsibilities? To answer to all these questions, we have Sundar, who would answer to all these questions. We all know Sundar is the India CEO of Resolve, and also he serves as a member of the National Digital Innovation Council of the PM, and a keen student of Madhva philosophy. So let us invite Sundar to the session to answer to all of these questions and have a very interactive session today. So let's welcome Sundar to today's session. Hi Sundar.
Namaskara, Santosh. Very nice to see you, and welcome to all the participants of the 131st workshop. So, when you actually mentioned 131st, it's quite overwhelming to see the distance that we have covered. And today we are on to a very interesting topic today, as always.
Right. Thanks for this. Like the moment we talk about this karma, so we always have this karma always used in a negative context. This is my karma, and I might, go through a bad, phase, or maybe some from our past lives. So many attachment to this word karma. So what does this word actually mean? So how do we sort of decipher and sort of use this word karma, which will sort of give us a clarity.
Absolutely, Santosh. I think what we really like is that the unique thing about the word karma is that it's one of the rare words in Sanskrit which have got adopted into mainstream English language today. If you see many English articles written in prestigious publications, the word karma has found its place not now but almost a decade ago. So it's a good starting point to find out what is karma, right? And what we have done in this workshop is that we have looked at this as a continuation of a series of workshops which actually cover the different aspects of Bhagavad Gita. But each place, what we're going to do now, each question that we have here is not a question that we created for ourselves, but more to do with how people have asked us these questions, and we have put it into this kind of a framework. So each question, each topic that we have, you will see a footnote which actually mentions the case study that we will be elaborating on during the discussion. Some of these people have actually allowed us to use their names, so we've used their names as it is, but in some cases they are anonymous. So it's a great starting point. What does the word karma actually mean? So it is a set of duties and actions that are set to make us happy, right? If you see the title of the workshop, it's called, what are the actions to be happy? And why are we talking about happiness here? Is that the ultimate goal of every soul that is there is to be happy. Whatever we do, we do that believing that that is what is going to give us happiness, right? You eat a dish, you read a book, you listen to a song, you watch a movie. All these are meant to look at how they're going to make you happy. So with that, what is the definition of karma? So if you could bring up that slide, is that it is a set of duties and actions that make us happy, right? Now, if this happiness is merely theoretical, then it will not lead to much. If this is happiness, what is the next word that comes? Experiencing that happiness. So one can talk a lot about happiness, but experiencing that is very important. So experience that reinforces our learnings is what is called karma. So whatever we are reading as a theoretical concept, when we experience it through performance of certain actions, that becomes karma, right? And you mentioned certain connotations that are there about karma. Okay, whenever something doesn't go wrong, or something goes wrong, I'm sorry, you say, oh my god, this is my karma, this is what I'm destined to do, to be. So is that also karma, and so on and so forth. So if you look at it, it's a set of duties and actions that make us happy, and it is those real time experiences that are there which reinforce our learnings. So the first definition, that's the first definition of karma. But there are other barometers as well. We have seen some of these in our earlier workshops. Whatever we do, whatever action that we do or we take, has to be dear to God. It has to be something which God likes and something that's prescribed in our scriptures. So what is God like? So that itself can create a lot of confusion. But whatever we are supposed to do and what is dear to God is very, very clearly mentioned in our scriptures. So we should make an effort to learn what is dear to God. That is the first requirement for our action to be called karma. The, the second one is it is to be as per one stage in life. So our life has different stages, and different things give us happiness at different times. And we are supposed to do different things at different times in our life. When you're a child, you probably don't have any duties. But as we grow older, we have a certain actions that we are supposed to perform, and those are as per the different stages of our life, right? So as a student, one is supposed to study. As a working professional, somebody is supposed to work. So like that, there is ashramochita. That means different stages of our life, which are called ashramas. What do we do as per that is karma. As ordained by birth, we are all born in a particular setup, a particular community or social sect, a particular religion, what have you. It could be in a social class, and so on and so forth. Now we are born in that sect, or we are our birth in a particular situation, if I may put it, is also ordained. That is, it's something that's pre-decided. So there are certain things that we have to perform, being having been born in a particular situation. So that is what is called, those actions are also called karma. The next one is by profession. We had seen last in our last workshop, whatever we have taken up as a profession. It could be, somebody could be a teacher, somebody could be a person who is a homemaker, somebody who is a doctor, somebody engineer, somebody is a manager, somebody is doing something else. So that is a vocation that we have chosen. That's a profession that we have chosen to earn a livelihood. That also becomes part of karma. That following that karma is as important as following any other kind of dharmic karma as well. And lastly, by circumstances. There might be specific circumstances and situations which ordain us to do certain things. So, for example, in certain countries, it's mandatory that irrespective of the profession that you belong to, you fight for your country and serve in the army for a certain period of time. That also forms a part of the karma. Similarly, if there is a situation where we see that there is a certain adharma or something wrong is going on, you protest and you fight against it. That's also the time the person becomes a kshatriya. So all the kshatriya dharma also becomes a part of your karma. So in all, karma, what does karma truly mean? It is those sets of actions and duties that we perform to be happy, and we experience in order to reinforce our learnings. Whatever we are learning, we are able to see it in actual happening, which means, let us say you're studying in a college, you also study in a classroom, you also go and attend a laboratory and see for yourself how things happen. So life is a laboratory for us, where we learn because of our experiences. And it has to be dear to God. It is something which is ordained in such a manner that it's dear to God. It's as per ashrama, as per birth, and as per our profession, in and to be performed in a certain circumstance. So that's the meaning of karma. We had Dr. Vishwajyoti, who is a person from Calcutta, who had written in a question to us about what does karma really mean. And the eternal dilemma is, what should I do? I'm born, my parents used to run a particular school, he said, but he had actually taken up the medical profession. So at the time when his parents were no more, should he go and teach? Should he be actually working as a doctor, or should he take up a social service? Should he take care of his family, and so on and so forth? But this definition of karma actually clarifies all his questions. And when I shared with him the response to his question, I think he came back almost a month later, saying that all these karmas, all the definition that he learned really helped him clarify what he wants to do. Not that all the doubts have gone away, but at least the prioritization and how we have to think in an analytical manner actually came to his rescue. So that's the meaning of the word karma, Santosh, in brief. Santosh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Sundar, the elaborate clarification that you made clearly makes sense that what karma is. Uh, Also, like there's an interesting slide where can I use this as a checklist to understand what is my karma, or like what one's supposed to do in life when you are in confusion. Basically, take these questions, answer to some of these questions, and arrive at what could be my karma and what could be my roles and responsibility as per my ashram uchita is what you're trying to do. Right.
Santosh,
That
if I
makes
may exactly, if I may give an example in the cricketing parlance, before a match starts, we are shown the list of the team members, right? And next to that, the roles are very clearly mentioned, right? The people at the top, there's a captain, there's a vice captain, and then there's a batting order. Who's the opener? Who's going to open with that person, the opening pair, and so on and so forth. Then there's a wicket keeper, and then there is a list of people who are going to be bowling. So
right.
our so that clarifies what our role is.
Right.
So if somebody were to know what is my karma, you have to find out like this: what is your role in the team that you are going to be playing?
Right. I think we need to strongly move away from using the word karma in a negative sense, and then start looking at this checklist and try and arrive at what is my roles and responsibility and define the karma.
Absolutely,
Sundar, like while we have defined what is karma and that we've given the checklist, the next question that we always hit is how do I know that I'm doing the right karma? While I might be doing a lot of things which I think assume that I would be good at it or I might be going in the right direction, but nobody is there to sort of tell me whether you're going in the right direction or not. Like a navigation thing. So GPS at least tells us where we're actually going, but how do we know that you're in the right direction?
absolutely. No, I think that's a very good question, Santosh, that you asked. And one of the members of the audience had asked it in our last workshop. That's why we picked it up as a question. So how do we know something? So you already mentioned. I think we've already answered it in some way. How does one know whether he or she is doing the right karma? The first thing is, you know, to be excellent and to be happy at doing anything, three things have to be aligned, right? One is your head, the other one is your heart, and the third one is your hand. Head stands for intellect, the heart stands for your emotions, and hand stands for execution. So if whatever you're thinking is the emotion that you feel, and the same thing gets executed, then there is a perfect synchronization between the two. So if you're doing things in the right way, your head, heart, and hand will always be aligned. You will never feel anxious, you will never feel tense, because you're doing what you want to do and what you're supposed to do, and you're executing it. You're not just keeping it as a hallucination, but you're actually executing it, right? In If you see, if these three things are not aligned, it is going to create trouble. So for example, if your head is not aligned to whatever you're doing, that means it is purely an emotional thought. It may be right, it may not be right. So it's not intellectually right. The second thing is, it is intellectually right, you're doing it, but then your heart is not in it. We use the word, your heart is not there in it because you're not giving it your best, right? The third thing that is there is your hand. Let us say you're intellectually we arrived at a plan, and you're really your heart is in it, but you're not executing on it. So every day the gap between what your expectations are and what you're really achieving on the ground, the gap will keep on increasing, in which case it leads to frustration. So how does one know when all these are aligned? That is when your head, heart and hand are all clearly aligned. So what we feel and what we do, right? So what do you feel like doing and what are we really doing? So for example, somebody wakes up in the morning and he says, oh my god, I don't want to. I know I'm supposed to get up and exercise, but I'm not feeling like it. Then it means your heart is not cooperating, and your hand of course will not move, because ultimately you're not feeling like exercising at all. So therefore it is important to align the three of them. The second point is the happiness gradient, right? As we start performing any activity, any karma, it could be any activity, over a period of time, you get more and more comfortable doing it, right? So if you're feeling more and more comfortable doing it, that means that is the right karma. But if on the contrary, if you are feeling that you are worse off or uncomfortable doing it, that means it is not the right karma. Let me give you an example. Let us say you've seen somebody who taken up a new job. He's taken up a new role in a new company. As in the first 1 week, everybody will find everything weird. They'll be very uncomfortable doing it. But over a period of time, this sense of ease increases. They get more familiar, they get to know more people, they understand the role better, they understand the company better, they understand the culture better, they understand the teams better, and they start getting more and more comfortable. And after some time, it makes it very, very natural for them to be working very well in that company, right? The same thing happens with karma as well. As you're ordained to perform a certain set of karmas. If you pursue them without any challenges over a period of time, that means you should know that you are doing the right karma. So that's a happiness gradient. The gradient has to keep on increasing. You have to be more comfortable, more happy as you sort of do the karma. The last one, which our scriptures talk about very clearly, is effortlessness. So where we are saying you should not be putting too much effort in order to be able to do this. So again, our familiar example that we've taken is how to drive a car. On day one, you are made to sit, and people teach you the very basic. They say, okay, this is the accelerator, this is the brake, and this is the clutch. That's how they look at it. The effortlessness with which this goes in over a period of time increases. Every time you sit in a car, you don't say, oh my god, this is the accelerator, this is the brake, and this is the clutch. Things just move seamlessly as we sort of go along. So it there is a certain amount of effortlessness, and that goes for spiritual pursuits. Let's say you're sitting in for meditation. The first day, it's very difficult to meditate even for 5 minutes, but over a period of time, you get better and better at it. You get more comfortable, it becomes more natural to you, and so on and so forth. So the amount of effortlessness, the prayatna, so prayatna shila is putting effort. If that comes more naturally over a period of time to you, so that is what you will get to know whether the karma is right. To summarize, your head, heart, and your hands have to be aligned. Second thing, the happiness gradient has to increase. As you keep performing the karma, if you feel more and more happy, then that is meaning that you are doing the right karma. And lastly, it is something which is something that you get better at, and you become probably more natural at. So these are the three broad tests for you to think about whether this is the right karma, in addition to the one that we have used when we define what is karma, Santosh. So remember, that is first, the basic definition of the karma has to be met. But whether that is right or wrong, these three tests will tell you.
Right. Sundar, at times what happens is our logics sometimes overpowers our heart, or sometimes heart may be overpowering our logical mind. Uh, do we have to sort of question that bit, or is just the happiness thing which sort of, or that comfort and ease of doing some karma and getting some benefit, would that be enough for me to sort of understand that I'm in the right path?
Yes. So, Santosh, you ask a very relevant question. If I've understood your question, it is about saying that, let us say your heart has started doing something, and it has temporarily sort of ignored the head, saying, okay, I like it. So if my heart likes it, then automatically it must be good. Ignoring what is the intellectual part of it. So is that also called karma? So that's the beauty of the human mind, Santosh. Though we feel that we are doing something only with the heart, and our head is not being used temporarily, it's a very temporary situation. Over a period of time, we, as Srimad Acharya clearly says, that there is a 11th sensory organ, 11th organ, which is called Sakshi, which will bring us back. It is a moral compass, if I may say, in this context. We can understand it as moral compass, which will bring us to what is right or what is wrong. Initially, it may feel that the heart is saying something and you're doing it. You do it for some time, you'll feel happy. You do it for some more time, you'll feel more happy. But then, don't we all experience a sense of guilt if you're doing something which is not to be done, right?
Right.
Then automatically the heart starts knocking at the doors of the brain and say, tell me, am I doing the right thing? Then your head automatically corrects it, right?
Right.
So one may get emotional, and it is very natural. We are all human beings to move away and stray away from what we should be doing. So that's why we say what should be doing. Should means what you're ordained to do, what is intellectually correct, what is analytically correct, what is logically correct. So the should will somehow catch up over a period of time.
Right. I think time and again one should like sit back and do that mathana of like what is overpowering and is it making sense, and then probably arrive at a balance to know take the journey on. Right.
Absolutely.
So moving on, like while we've defined what is karma and what is the right karma, and the question that we all go through is even after doing the right karma, after knowing it properly, we would still suffer. Like a lot of people who are uh, at a like maybe a great scholars, they know the shastras well, they've understood it, but they still suffer at maybe at a physical level. They might be going through a lot of other issues. Maybe we all go through. And why do one suffer even after doing or knowing all these things?
Yes. So, suffering is an integral part of our life. I think very thought about uh, having a life which is full of only happiness is a very impractical thought. And why is that? It's because if we have to learn a few things about how we should be looking at the topic of karma and how that sort of leads to some kind of a happiness or sorrow, right? So, first thing is we have to realize that whatever happens in our lives, it's an accumulation and a reflection of our own karma, right? So we get this question very often from people about my horoscope and astrology, the topic of astrology, saying, my god, my planet is not right, these planets are not favoring me, and so on and so forth. The planets, the 9 planets of the navagrahas are all deities. They have better job to do than to create trouble for us, so they are not creating trouble. What is happening is that they are being very benevolent in showing up in a certain way in our horoscope, giving us a reflection of what our karma is. So it is, imagine it is like a laboratory report, right, which tells you what is the state of your body. So the laboratory report is a report which tells you how your body is at that point in time. So similarly, our horoscope is nothing but a reflection of what our spiritual health is, and what karmas are right for us and what karmas are wrong for us. So in this context, what it what whatever we are experiencing today is a ha- is a product of two things. One is the karmas that we have accumulated over the past, right? It's an accumulation of what all has happened in the past, and not performing the current actions of the karmas in the right manner, right? So let me elaborate on both of these a little bit. We have, this is not the first birth. We have been there since eternity, and we will live. The soul is there forever, and for each birth the soul actually takes, in each body form it takes, in different births, it is actually accumulating karmas over a period of time, and that karma actually manifests in different ways, both positive and negative. So that is our past karma, which is there. And in this birth also we were ordained, and a certain set of actions that we were supposed to do. But have we done them, and are we doing it rightly? If we're doing it rightly, it liberates us from that karma. If you're doing it wrongly, then it is putting us further, adding to our sins and our list of past karmas keeps on growing. So therefore, so the accumulation of the past karmas as well as the karmas that we are performing now is are important factors we should consider to understand why are we suffering so much. So karmas are liberators. Karma is a liberation from from this suffering. Only karma can get us out of this continuous cycle of birth and death, of happiness and joy, and take us to that state of salvation. That is the only way, right? So we will see how. And the other big thing about karma is that karma leads to deha shuddhi or atma shuddhi. That means our own self purification, which gets us ready to the next thing in life after karma, which is gnana, getting the gnana, which we will be talking about in our subsequent workshop. But so therefore, coming back to the topic, the right karma, we are doing the right karma today, but our past karmas are are catching up with us. Similarly, we are performing the right karma today, but not in the right manner. That also accumulates the karmas onto ourselves. But the solution to this is not indulging in self pity and playing the victim. I think we do it very often. What we do is every time something goes wrong, we say, "Oh my God, the whole world is conspiring against me. Everything is going wrong for me," and it's not because of me, because I am the victim, right? I think one should come out of that state of mind as soon as possible, because it's nobody's fault that we are the way we are. We are responsible for our goodness and our sorrows. We are responsible for our happiness, and we are responsible for our sorrows. Unless we take responsibility for this, we will not work towards elevating it, because you say, okay, anyway, it's not in my hands, right? Many of us say this. Oh my God, ever see, I'm like this, I'm very unlucky. Whatever I do, it doesn't work out. On the other contrary, there are other overconfident people say, whatever I do succeeds. I've got the Midas touch. I touch everything and everything becomes gold. So both these situations are extreme situations. So therefore, Santosh, if you could bring up the third point, which is to say that it is never indulge in self pity or playing the victim. Lastly, I think what you do when you are doing the right thing yet you're suffering, then the best way to do that is to seek feedback and guidance from a guru, and do you correct your course. Maybe there is something that you're doing which is not so right, and therefore it is happening and it's contributing and aggravating the problem. So these are things that you need to do to correct your course. And when you start doing the right karma over a period of time, this actually starts elevating. There are many many methods which are mentioned in our scriptures to help you overcome the scriptures of the wrong karmas of your past. They are available, and we should start performing them. Every spiritual karma that we perform, every karma that we do which is right, has got has got the ability and has got the power to overcome all that is negative in our karma, and the suffering will stop.
Great. Sundar, these points definitely would sort of give us whether we are heading towards the right direction or not. I just have one personal question. Like when we talk about the accumulation of past karma, we always think that we are in a helpless situation, that whatever is done in the past, it is done now. I mean, I can't do anything much about it. Like we always have this comparison between past and the present. My question is like, is there a way to sort of take control, do a better karma so that that nullifies in my present situation? So that, because the other 3 points, which is performing actions correctly, not indulging in self pittiness, and then seeking feedbacks, has a lot of control in my hand in my current situation. Whereas my past karma is already done, so wherein I don't know what have I done and to what intensity should I bring in a current karma which I can nullify, which I have no control. How do I see this and how do I address?
Absolutely. I think, Santosh, you bring up a very pragmatic question, saying that, okay, if I'm suffering despite everything being right, it only means I have, there must be something which is accumulated in the past over which I have no control. I don't even know. I don't even know how much of, how much of past karma I have. At least if you have taken a loan and you're not paying, at least you know how much of loan you are supposed to have.
Correct.
But in this case, you don't know, right? And a very positive way of handling this, since we do not know, is to take refuge in God, right? Who has a very, very accurate account of whatever we have accumulated over several births, and what can we do to overcome that? If you see our scriptures, it is full of stories of people who went astray, moved away from their karma, moved away from, and in fact committed several sins. But God has been so kind, so as to even rectify their situation. So we have the story of Ajamila and so many other people who went astray, but who then started to pray to God, and they came back to rectify all our sins. So there's a very interesting story. There's a very interesting point when Madhvacharya makes. He says, you know, if you take the name of Lord Narayana once with complete faith and complete dedication, do you know how many of your sins will disappear? Can you estimate it? So we all start thinking, how much should it be? Is it one birth, two birth, 10 births, 10,000 birth, 1 lakh births? We don't know, right? And that time, Madhvacharya replies, "Don't worry, don't think so hard. If you take the name of God even once with complete devotion, then all your sins, irrespective of how big they are, will disappear in just by taking God's name even once." So all of us are startled. He said, "Oh my God, I've recited Vishnu Sahasrama since last 20 days, right? 20 years. I'm sorry, or 50 years, 60 years. My sins don't seem to go away." So that just speaks about the quality of the way in which we have recited so many names. So what is the important thing? Recitation of the God's name, or taking the God's name even once with complete faith and dedication. We may not be able to get there instantly, but we are going to, if we start taking steps towards that, there are methods available, such as taking the name of the God itself, which can actually kill all the past karmas. So it's a very positive situation. Imagine we have committed sins after, for so many births, but once you take the name of a God even once, all of those will just disappear. So that's the power that is there. While the scriptures talk about the past and talk about what all could have gone wrong, they are more towards, they are also prescribing the methods by which all these sins and all these karmas can be overcome so easily. What can be
Right.
easier than this? So that is why they say Harinama Smarana. That means there could be a situation when you can't even recite the God's name. Somebody may be so weak, so disillusioned that he can't even take the name of God. But even thinking about God is enough to help us overcome all our sins.
Right. Sundar, can we like doing regular practices, maybe like Sandhya Vandana, chanting Vishnu Sahasranama or Nama Japa, all this you're saying would definitely benefit in sort of, like overcoming all the past karma and give us, create much better karma in the current, in the present life.
Correct.
Right.
No, Santosh, I just want to bring in one point here, which is that, whenever we talk about karma, right, what all we have to perform as our duties, we get so overwhelmed, right? We get very defensive. We say, "Oh my God, where is the time to do this?" and so on and so forth. But tell me, isn't that a very small price to pay for the happiness that we should be getting? Yes, maybe sitting for 30 minutes and doing Sandhya Vandana may be difficult for some people, right? But isn't that a very small price to pay as a gratitude for someone who can elevate all our problems and solution? We have no hesitations in watching, going a round robin of all the social media every 60 seconds, opening our phones on an average of 150 times a day to check whether God has sent us a message, or the Prime Minister has sent us a message every single minute. We have no problems with that. We have no problems in binge watching web series. We have no problems in browsing endlessly from one website to the other, hoping that you will find something which is which is of value to us, but we have all the trouble sitting for 30 minutes and meditating on God, right? This is the way our mind is playing games with us. So we should not fall prey to this kind of a trap, and go ahead and do what is right for us. After all, what when we say that, it is mandatory to do meditation, it is mandatory to mandatory to recite Vishnu Sahasrama, it is mandatory to recite Vayu Stuti, or other great chants and prayers which are there. It is not mandatory actually. It's mandatory to only those people who want to feel happy, who want to be in that state of bliss. For those people who don't want to be happy and not be in that state of bliss, people can go to hell. It is not mandatory to them, isn't it? Mandatory only for people who want to be happy. It's like asking, is it mandatory to pay taxes? It is not mandatory. If you are very fond of going to jail, great. Let's go ahead and put you in jail, because you don't think it's mandatory to pay taxes. So I think when we say mandatory, it is for people who want this to be their last birth. It is to come out of the cycle of this happiness and sorrow of life and death that we experience very, very frequently, which is actually putting so much pressure on us.
Right. So the next question that we always hear is, uh, we define the karma and we know we're getting in the right direction. Something also that comes into our way is like, we have our strengths and our passions. We become overwhelmed with certain things, like, I'm really passionate about doing certain things, passionate about singing, maybe something else. Uh, uh, can we consider this as a part of karma? Uh, how do I see that?
Absolutely, I think it's a great question for us. So when you're looking about, see, when we use the word passion, I'm assuming you're referring to something which is very deep and something that you really like, right? And we talked about the head, heart, and the hand, right? So is following our passion also part of our karma? The answer definitely is yes, provided it is not in violation of the other things that you are supposed to do, right? And this is very mandatory. Our first slide therefore is very, very important for us. So therefore, let me give you an example. We just talked about the cricket match, right? Just before a cricket match starts, as I told you, we have all these players, their names are displayed, clearly mentioning what are their roles, right? In organizations, everybody has a certain role, right? And he has to perform those roles. The key performance indicators, KPIs as they're called in organizations, or goals and objectives that are set. It could be in a work situation, it could be in an education situation. We are all set certain goals, right? Now whatever we do, right, has to be done. We have to do that first, and then look at other things, right? So what I mean by this is, we are all ordained to perform certain tasks. Our passion is very much a part of karma, provided it is done after whatever is mandatory is done. So for example, Maitreyi, her name is changed, she had written to us, she loves gardening, but she thinks, is this a wastage of time? Definitely not a wastage of time. It's a great passion, it's a great hobby for you to have. However, you cannot neglect your regular duties. So Maitreyi is actually an employee of a nationalized bank, and she has to perform those duties of whatever she's supposed to do there. If she's a cashier, she has to disburse cash. If she's a clerk, she's supposed to work on the accounts, and so on and so forth. Whatever she's supposed to do as a part of that, she is supposed to do that. And over and above that, if she wants to pursue a hobby, definitely shastras will count that as a karma. But the important thing in this, Santosh, to remember is that whatever we take up has to be something that is offered to God, right? So somebody may be gardening, but just looking at that and saying, okay, look, I'm gardening today, right? I'm watering the plant, but it's not just watering the plant. I'm watering the plant so that it blossoms lovely flowers and fruits, which I can then offer it to God. Or even the act of watering the plant is actually doing abhisheka to God. So how the manner in which we look at every act as an act of God, an act for God, is actually what determines what is a great karma and what is not a good karma, right? So yes, definitely I think one should pursue one passion as long as it is not in violation of any of the rules that we have talked about. Otherwise it can mean a distraction. And Krishna is very clear in this, in the Bhagavad Gita, when he says vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha kurinandana. That means there will be several things which will be distracting you from what you're supposed to achieve, but you should pursue it is in line, and it is completely aligned to your karmas as such. So definitely pursue your passion, and that is also part of karma. The other thing, what is the ideal situation? Therefore, you have a certain passion that becomes your job, and that becomes your vocation, which is also a part of your varnashrama, right? That is, let us say somebody very passionate about teaching, and he's born in a family which is supposed to teach, and it is also something which he takes up as his profession, and that's the ideal situation as far as that person is concerned. So following one's passion is definitely part of karma. Yeah.
Sundar, another question that I have at this moment is when we actually follow our passions, sometimes what it happens that I've heard people talking about, I'm also passionate about singing, maybe something else, maybe gardening. So multiple things that one may get attracted and maybe passionate about. How do we sort of handle the situation? Sundar?
Yeah, I think what you asked me is actually the part of our next question, which is I think about how do we plan and how do we execute so that we are able to achieve everything without
Right,
overdoing anything and underperforming on certain other parameters, right? So
right,
many people have asked us like, what is our ideal, what should be the ideal calendar that we should follow so that we are able to balance all our responsibilities. Because remember, karma is not just spiritual activities. Karma also includes your household responsibilities. It includes your professional work. It also, now we have seen how it includes hobbies and other passions that one can have. And very importantly, whatever you do, the common thing is it has to be something which is dear to God. It has to be pleasing to God. And what that is, of course, through various workshops we've already covered that, and we will be covering in the next few workshops as well. So if you can go, what are the ideal calendar? So we have taken a stab at designing an ideal calendar, whether you are a student or a professional or a person who is in charge of running a home, whatever you are. Can you follow a calendar? So if you could bring up that calendar, I think the calendar, the important thing is it starts at 5 a.m. in the morning. So waking up early and starting your sadhana early in the morning with a prayer to God is very important. Why is this important? Because you are actually tuning your system early in the morning, saying that whatever I do today is going to be a prayer to God. It's not just saying a prayer, it's not just sitting in a and reciting a shloka, which is a prayer to God, which is where it's a direct prayer to God. But everything else I do is also prayer to God. Then spend about 15 minutes in your morning ablutions, and then exercise for a little while, because we all have to remain fit for our sadhana. So 30 minutes of exercises, and then 30 minutes of our prayers in the morning, and again 30 minutes for our spiritual studies. Very important. Many people say, how do we study and where is the time for all this? Here is the time. This is the suggested way. You can make corrections here and there, but important thing is to see that you have actually slotted an activity and you stick to this with discipline. Nobody has ever achieved anything great without being disciplined. So if you want to be a pursuer of your karma, then it's important that you are very, very disciplined in the way you execute it. Yes, initially, this kind of a regimentation, living by the clock is difficult, but once you move on your journey, and when you start experiencing the benefit of following this calendar, automatically, your mind will sort of tune itself to being positive. From 7 a.m., therefore, till 6 p.m., we have left it blank, which is all your professional work, going to work, working from home, or your household chores, everything done in those 11 hours of the day, which is a lot. So that's not touched. So many people say, I'm a working person, how can I study? This is how you do it, because you back at 6 p.m., and from 6 to 7 p.m. are time for your evening prayers, and whichever format of prayer that you choose to, that's a time for that. And from 7 to 9 p.m. it's family time. It's important that you understand what's happening in your family, connect with your family members every single day, understand how you can rear your children, because for children, elders are the best role models. So whatever you do, you should know what's going on in their life, you should participate, teach them, do, or spend time with your spouse and partner, so that you could go around and have a good time as well. Leading a special spiritual life doesn't mean that one should forsake all these things, except that do everything as a prayer to God. That's the big difference. Even if one is with a family, one needs to be in that mindset that this is also God's time. God's time is not restricted to staying in a puja room and doing prayer. That's one part of it. But there is another part of it, which is 99% of our life, where whatever we do, it is nothing but a prayer to God. So then after 7 to 9 p.m. there is family time, and from 9 to 10:30 again you have a 1.5 hour slot to reading and pursuing your spiritual studies as well. And 10:30 end the day, because by the time you're tired you've woken up at 5 a.m. But the big difference is end the day with a prayer. End the day with a prayer, thanking God for having given you that day, because everybody who wakes up, there's no guarantee that the person will live to end the day as well. So thank God that He gave you the entire day, gave us the energy to perform whatever we did to the best of our ability. And if there are any mistakes that we have committed, we should ask for forgiveness and say that tomorrow, God, give me the thought that I should not repeat this. Tomorrow should not be a repetition of the mistakes that I've committed today. That, and end the day at 10:30. Right? So that's like a calendar on a weekday. But look at the right column. The whole thing is nothing but God's prayer. Whatever you are doing, it's God's prayer. You are exercising, that is also prayer to God. You are doing a professional work, that is also prayer to God. You're doing spending time with your family, as we said, that is also God's prayer. So this way you're always spiritually connected, right? So wherever we go, we've got this phone. The phone, the mobile phone, it's always connected to a network. Like that, we are all mobile phones which are connected to God's network. We are just we are just and we perform these karmas properly, these connections will always remain strong. The signal will always be strong. The more you move away from your karmas, the further it will take you, and the signal will start becoming weak, which we don't want. Because if you do that, then you will start to struggle. So after these calendars on the weekday, what can one do on the weekend? Which is a lot. Santosh, if you could move to the next slide, which is talking about weekend. The big difference is you have a lot of time between 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., which you had done other things. Now you can use it to plan for spiritual activities, actually pursue studies, professional excellence, personal professional excellence training programs, readings that are there, visiting temples, and so on and so forth. All that can be done. So the weekend you can achieve a lot more, provided you're disciplined on the weekend as well, like the way you are on a weekday, and you execute it. Yes, one needs a lot of rest, and that should be done on the weekend as well. But again, common factor is God's prayer. So if you're always tuned to saying that whatever we do is God's prayer, then the weekday and weekend will all be well utilized, right? So which brings us to the last thing, and then we'll take questions. We see that there are already 3 questions. We welcome more questions as we go along. Santosh, if you could bring up the last slide. So what is the must do's? Is think of every activity as God's work. No work is big or small. Whatever comes our way is an opportunity to serve God, right? Let us say you are we are going in Puri Jagannath, and everybody's pulling the chariot, the line, the big chariot. Even the smallest work, every person pulling it and putting his effort is considered God's work. We all know the story of Ramayana, how the little squirrel was also picking up a pebble and dropping it to build the build the bridge across this. Very interesting story of in Bhagavata, where all the boys come running to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is holding the Govardhana Parvata, the hill, with a small finger. They all come with their sticks, and they start putting the sticks in vertical position. So Krishna says, what are you guys doing? So they say, no, just in case your little finger starts to hurt, right, there are these sticks with which we will carry the Govardhana Parvata, right? And the best part is, see, when we hear all this, all of us have a smile on our face, and we are thinking internally, though these guys, how will a stick hold the weight of Govardhana Parvata, right? Everybody smiles at them sarcastically, other than Lord Krishna, because he is telling them, yes, thank you for your offer. If that there is a need, definitely I will take your help of that stick. But what is important is that spirit, that they wanted to actually hold the stick and help Lord Krishna, right? So no work is big or small. Everything that we do, if it is a prayer to God, then it is not big or small. Do not just aim for instant gratification. I think that's a way our mind plays games. I've done something, I want the results right now. I have done a prayer, yet I'm not be able to overcome our anxiety. We want everything immediately. Instead of looking at that, we have to look at medium to long term goals. When you make an investment, do you look for daily earnings, or do you look at interest that is paid over a month or a year? Right? Clearly, month and a year is more important than just that day's interest. The fourth point is, start every activity with a prayer and end it with an offering to God. After every activity, you should say Kayena Vacha Manasendriyirva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Yadyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayana Samarpayami. That's it. Akshayam Karma Yasmin Pare Swarpitam Kukshigam Yanti Yannamataha Aksharo Yojaraha Sarvadai Vamritaha Kukshigam Yasya Vishwam Sada Jadikam Prinayamo Vasudevam Devata Mandala Akhanda Mandala. This is a simple shloka, two shlokas that you should recite at the end of every karma. You can't remember this, we are going to post it in the comment section after the workshop. You can pick it up from there. If you can't recite anything, no problem, just say Krishnarpanamastu. That's enough. It is offered to God. The last point, and this is the most important question that we get, is that I don't have time. You will never have time. You will never get that time in the drawer in your house. Somebody says, I don't have time. The time is not hidden in some the drawer in your house which you can just open and take it. You have to make time. You have to make time for things which are very, very crucial. You will never get time. We always have to make time. A super performer and an average performer and a useless person, all three of them have one thing in common. They have 24 hours a day. How they use those 24 hours makes a success, makes them successful or a failure. So these are certain things that we thought we should share with you on the topic of karma. I hope this was useful. We'll go into the Q&A session, Santosh. Santosh, we can go to the question and answers. So let me just start with
Yes,
looking
sir.
at this.
I'm taking up these
Yeah.
questions.
Yes.
Right. Right. So I request all the viewers to start posting in your questions if you have. So we'll start addressing these ones, starting with Vedanti Venkatesha. The question is little more explanation on self pity and playing victim, please.
Sure. I mean, what happens is, uh, there is a tendency among some, wherein they start feeling that whatever happens in their life is negative. Uh, and they are the only people who face happiness. They're the only people who face all the sorrows, and there is some kind of a divine conspiracy to keep them away from happiness, right? It's a very fairly common thing, and we all do it at different times. It's not just some people, it's everybody who does it at some point or the other. It's a very natural tendency. So self pity is all about that. Oh, uh, uh, ayo papa, syndrome, as it's called, right? Where we just keep thinking, oh my God, this has happened to me. Everything is beyond my control. I can't do anything, and so on and so forth. Uh, and the same thing is playing victim. They turn it around and say, start playing victim. I did this, did not happen to me because somebody else did this to me. I'm the victim. So they're very fast at playing the victim. What happens because of this is there is no accountability on them, because they believe nothing, they have not done anything wrong. All the wrongs in the world have happened to them from because of someone else. So therefore they start playing the victim. So that is what has to be avoided, and it has to be overcome. Because yes, sometimes it looks like the whole world is conspiring. The answer is nobody is conspiring against us. It is our own karmas, our own actions, which have led to the positives and the negatives in our life. If we start doing the positive karmas over a period of time, these will slowly go away, and we can emerge victorious. So that's the meaning of self pity and playing the victim.
Right.
Vedanti.
Moving on to the next question from Uttam. Can Jiva perform work or only desire to work?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
The question is, can Jiva perform work or only the desire to work, basically?
Both. I mean, it is clearly a desire to work and the propensity to start actioning, right? Both are very, very important, right? And the jiva both are inherently stored in the jiva. It is a desire that is there, as well as the propensity to action,
Correct.
and it's with the grace of God that it actually starts to act.
Yeah. Uh, the next question from Uttam is more like Datta Swatantriya kind of a question. Why is it said that everything happens by the will of God, or do we have the will to do it, or it's only the illusion or free will?
No, so clear, we have answered this question in earlier workshops as well. It is by the will of God that anything happens and everything happens. The jiva, of course, has his own propensity to think and act as well. So that is what called datta swatantra. That means God has given us that width and has given us that ability to think and act as well, according to in an accordance with His line of accordance with His will as well. So everything that happens, the overall will is of the God prevails, but within that framework, God has given us some kind of a freedom to do what how we need to act. So we are going to be releasing a video shortly, because this question comes repeatedly, which has more details on Datta Swatantriya. That means what is the concept of conferred independence by God.
Right. Next question from Rohit Rao. So, what determines if a karma is good or bad?
So Rohit, I think the question is answered in the first slide that we saw, where we have clearly mentioned those boxes have to get ticked. Every time those boxes have been ticked, that is a good karma. That is something that leads to the positive answer, to the positive direction. Look at the Mahabharata war. Should the Mahabharata war be fought? Is a question. By itself, there is nothing right. Is it a right karma or wrong karma? Is something that we cannot decide. Imagine what happened. For Krishna is advising Arjuna to fight the war. That is good karma for him. He's advising, that is Krishna is advising Duryodhana not to fight the war before the war starts, when he goes there as a messenger of peace, right? So the act itself, there's nothing right or wrong about it. It is about the perspective with which you are seeing it. So who gives that perspective? How do we know the perspective? Is that checklist that we have. If it is as per that, that is good karma.
Uh, Another question from Srinivas. So he's asking, referring to the table that we had posted. So under prayers and spiritual studies, which is 6 a.m. to 7, what are the recommended tasks to be performed? Please suggest.
Yeah, so it could be it could be any kind of pursuit of studies, spiritual studies. It could be even listening to a lecture for 30 minutes. it could be reading a certain grantha, or it could be attending a proper class. Many sessions, a patha of shastra patha happen across by many reputed scholars. All this forms under the comes under the larger ambit of studies of the spiritual of our scriptures. So any of these could be performed at that point in time. Because it's early in the morning, the rate of absorption tends to be very high. It's all our experience. When we wake up early in the morning, the mind is very fresh, and there is no noise relatively, and one can absorb much faster. As the days goes, the day's pressures, the day's thoughts, the day's fatigue sort of starts to set in, and by end of day your efficiency comes down. So you have to allocate the most productive time to the most important activity. That's when your effectiveness will be the best of the overall result. So these are certain things that you could do: listen to lectures, read a book, attend spiritual classes, meditation, and so on.
Thanks, Srinivas, for asking this question. Due to constraint of time, I'll be just moving on to the for the slides. I request all the viewers to start posting the questions. Even after the session, the window would be on, so you could ask the questions or write into us. We will be taking up these questions and then replying to you. So moving on, this is how the calendar looks like for the year 22 and 23. So today we've spoken about the unique insights from Bhagavad Gita on Karma Yoga. The next series that we'll be talking about is about the Jnana Yoga from Bhagavad Gita and Bhakti Yoga. Moving on, we're planning to do an open house session where it will be a direct interaction with the speaker. If you have any questions, it's a digital veranda where you could ask any questions under the purview of of the Madhva philosophy. And in the month of Jan 23, we'll be talking about Upanishads and then sadhana, and to learn the Madhva philosophy as to how do you sort of construct the entire study. Then, starting from 2023 April, we'll be talking about Shastras, but how can you prove it? The system of proofs in Indian philosophy, and then the glories of Vishnu Sahasranama. We had spoken about Vishnu Sahasranama in our earlier sessions. We will be again bringing back this session, and then life and works of our Yatis, Vadirajaru, Vyasarajaru, and Jayatirtha. So I would request all of the viewers to take a screenshot of this schedule. Could be handy for you, and then helps you to attend all the sessions. And we have released three videos on YouTube, three lessons of from the lives and works of Jayatirtharu, the amazing life of Jayatirtha. We had launched this video during Aradhana Mahotsav of Jayatirtharu, and then couple of videos on for Raghavendra Swami's Aradhana. So request you to go to our YouTube section, Madhvacharya for Youth, and then check out these interesting. And these are very snippets, about 10 to 12 minutes kind of a video, easy to consume. Request viewers to sort of go and watch these new releases. The next workshop would be on the unique insight from Bhagavad Gita on the Jnana Yoga. So we call knowledge as power. So we would be bringing in some unique insights. Some of the insights that we brought today on Karma Yoga. Similarly, we would try to bring powerful insights from Bhagavad Gita on Jnana Yoga. Request all the viewers to block your calendars, which is on Sunday, 16th October. Same time from 3:30 to 4:30. Request all the viewers to join this session. Sundar, any final words?
No, nothing, Santosh. I think we have been on a very interesting journey on the topic of Bhagavad Gita in the last few workshops. The next one is on probably the crux of what Bhagavad Gita is all about, which is Jnana Yoga, and how the superiority of Jnana as the path to reach the God. We're going to be discussing that. So I know there were a few more questions that that were to be answered, but due to positive time, we want to keep this to an hour. We've not been able to take it here, but definitely please do write to us. on the web, on the email ID. We are going to post that in the comment section as well. Please do write to us. It's very encouraging that for after every workshop we get at least 30 to 40 messages on coming in through LinkedIn, through the email, of course, through the comment section, in the YouTube channel itself, through Instagram, and we try to answer as many as possible. And so far, I think we have managed to answer all the questions to the satisfaction of our participants. So please, get together and do this. We've also got a repeated request in the last 3 months to conduct offline workshops. So I'm happy to also share with all of you that we are going to be working on conducting these offline workshops, day long, half a day, 2 day kind of workshops, on various topics that are of deep interest to the participants. So we will announce the detailed schedule of these offline workshop very shortly. That's it from me, Santosh.
Right. Thanks, Sundar. Thanks for your time. So, thanks all the viewers for joining in, posting your questions, and uh, keep looking forward for many more sessions. Request all the viewers to, show, the support, and then a big thanks to MFI team for putting up this content. Uh, and yes, thanks, Sundar. Thanks for your time, and thanks all viewer. Looking forward for the next session on October 16th on Jnana Yoga. Thanks, Sundar.
No, no.